Hello, everyone. My name is David Michael,
And I am Michael Carter.
and we are
Ridiculously bored.
Welcome back, Michael Bastard. Episode number 25. How are you doing, bitch?
I am well. I do want to get right into it, though.
I just did, so go for it.
Last week, I believe you gave me shit for giving you a hard time following up to make sure you were going to call in to record this at the time we
I
planned.
already know where this is going. This is bullshit.
You know where it's going because you were late.
I wasn't late. So you said we agreed on a starting time. We didn't agree. You sent out a meeting invite for a starting time, and I did not accept that starting time.
Yeah. I just want to point out to the rest of the people listening that I think 22 of the 25 episodes we've started at the same time. So,
well, that's not true. No. So we did have the time change. So we are an hour earlier than normal.
Oh, well, for you, that's
for
right.
Me, it's the same time for you. So it's an hour earlier for me since what, March? Yeah. But yeah, the last 10 episodes, we have been doing it at this time. I'll give credit where credit is due.
Another reason why that stupid time change thing needs to go away so you can't use it as an excuse.
Ridiculous. You know what the worst part about it is? There are two states that I know of that don't participate. Arizona and Indiana. And I don't even think it's the entire state of Indiana. I think it's like the Indianapolis metropolitan area.
I believe, and because I'm not from Indianapolis, and I put it right under Philly for fuck you, Indianapolis, I believe a time zone runs through it. So not to fuck half of the state, they just never change their time. I could be wrong on that, and the Google police will let us know, but I believe that's the reason why they don't change it.
Yeah. All right. That's fucking stupid. Anyways, how was your week?
My week was good. You don't change it, on the other hand, because it's just sunny forever. So the week was good. So I'm trying to get more organized at home. And as part of that, I've been like scanning a bunch of old shit that's around.
Scanning like documents, pictures, photos?
Whether it's documents, pictures, I'm going to put any that I have. I'm going to send it into Costco, and they'll give me a disc back or a jump drive, a USB drive.
Yeah, I think I did that back in 97.
Yeah, well,
welcome.
I'm getting there. So I came across a couple old like concert tickets and movie tickets and sporting events and things like that. So one that jumped out at me has no relationship to you, but if anybody's interested, September 18th, 1999 was Hispanic Heritage Night at Chase Stadium. That's one. And then two, the other one I'm going to ask you is, does the date, June 10th, 1994, mean anything to you?
June 10th, 1994. That's somewhere around when Kurt Cobain died.
Actually, about 2 months later, yes.
Okay, all right. Other than that, no, I can't think of anything.
All right, so I'll give you a couple clues. It was Yankee Stadium.
Oh, Pink Floyd concert.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was the Pink Floyd concert.
Right. Yeah, that's right. My girlfriend at the time bought us tickets to that. It was like a birthday gift.
All right, how was your week?
That's a loaded question. So I've debated having this discussion with you on camera because or being recorded because it's one of those topics where we've talked about it before. Both of our parents suffer from Alzheimer's, diagnosed, and it's a horrible disease. And the way we don't like get upset about it is we kind of poke fun at it. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, that's okay until, it's embarrassing for someone. This one's going to be embarrassing for my dad, but you jokingly said earlier, like, he's going to forget about it anyways.
The next day he'll forget about it, so you don't need to worry.
Which is, it sucks, but it is what it is. So my dad growing up always had a little bit of a temper, typical Italian hothead, right? When something went, awry or didn't go his way, he would kind of get mad and he'd like say he had a screwdriver in his hand or something like that. He would like throw it on the ground or something like that, and he would get mad and he'd start cursing. He had the vocabulary of a sailor for sure. So that carried on into adulthood. And as he got older and became diagnosed with Alzheimer's, one of the major symptoms of Alzheimer's is an additional loss of your ability to control your temper. So
Yes.
part of the actual disease is, people that normally didn't have temper issues all of a sudden have temper issues. So you can imagine what it's like if you had a short temper before, what it would be like afterwards. It's amplified like 10x.
Right.
So, and I don't know if you've seen that with your mom.
Absolutely.
But your mom is probably more like she gets frustrated more easily as opposed to like losing your temper.
No, she loses her temper a little bit now as well. But the difference is, like you said, my mom was always very, other than when I pissed her off as a kid, she was always relatively calm. Your dad is he's gone from TNT to TNT and a nuclear weapon probably taped together.
Oh yeah,
now.
he's a czar bomb for sure. He's a 50 megaton kind. So his whole world, I mean, when you think of Alzheimer's, they're trapped in their own mind, right? His whole world is a figment of what he thinks, right? So regardless of whether or not it's true, if he thinks it happened, because there's no way for him to fact check it. So he has these run-ins with his TV. So when I first moved him out here, he was living with me for a little while, and I brought his TVs out from New York, and we put one of his TVs on, and one day he got mad and he punched it. All right. And it had a glass screen, and the screen just shattered. So it's like, all right, we got to replace the TV. So we go out and buy a new TV. So then he moves into his own apartment, and one day I go over maybe a month later, and the TV's completely shattered on one side. By the way, I was smarter. The TV that I bought him had a plastic screen. So it's a little bit cheaper, not as high end, not made of glass, made of plastic. And shattered the hell out of it.
Yeah, and so thankfully nowadays TVs also don't cost $2,000 anymore.
Yeah. No, these are like $200, 40-inch TVs from Costco,
TVs,
right? Basically disposable TVs, right? I go over and it's completely shattered from the corner. So it looks like it was dropped on a corner. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Based upon where it is in his room, I can see how he might have rounded the corner and maybe it got caught on his pocket and then it fell over and it broke. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Buy him a new TV. About a month and a half later, I go over. He says the TV's broken. I go look at it. It looks like somebody threw a baseball through the middle of the TV because it's just there's a hole in the middle and it just shattered like spider web from there on out. So recounting, that's what, his third TV?
That's his third. It's also good to see that he still has his velocity.
Yes, velocity is up. He's still throwing 95 mile an hour fastballs for sure. So I'm like, dude, like we got to stop. And, I talked to him about it and he's like, well, I don't know what happened. He's like, I wasn't here. And I'm like, well, you're the only one that has the key to your place. So he's like, well, it wasn't me. I said, all right, well, I'm not paying for it. You got to pay for it. So he's like, that's fine. I have some money. And he does. He has, he's got his Social Security. So it covers his rent. And thankfully he got the COVID relief, check. So he had, $1,000 sitting in his account. So I'm like, all right, it's $200. He needs to learn a lesson. If all of a sudden he's paying for the TVs, then maybe he's going to be a little bit more careful with the TV, right?
Isn't it amazing how just that comment you just said, and I feel the same way, how we've become the parents to our parents.
This is how you would react to your child, right?
Yes.
Well, fine, you're paying for it, so if you break it, it's your money. So this was a week and a half ago. All right. And keep in mind, he lives in an apartment. All of his friends and family are either dead or live in New York. It's in the middle of the pandemic. Nobody really wants to talk to you. He's got no friends. Like, he's basically trapped in a room. So the TV is everything. Right. So this
the
last
TV and
one,
that maid that comes over once in a while.
Help. The help. She's not just a maid. Did we talk about that in a prior episode?
We did.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the maid that you wish you had.
Yes.
Yeah, she helps him shower. So, anyways, this was like a week and a half ago. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let it like sit for a couple days because after a couple days, I'm thinking maybe he'll be so frustrated about not having anything to do, he'll be more careful with the TV. Not only that, I happen to work in IT, and I happen to know that electronic components, particularly for monitors and televisions, are becoming a rarity because the shipments, those parts from China, are not getting to the U.S. At the velocity that they used to.
Yes.
Right. So TVs are actually becoming more expensive. Cars are becoming more expensive. Anything that needs certain electrical components from China are going up in price. And I told him, and I said, look, I said, this is going to be the last TV for a while because this particular model is now, I've got to search all over town to find it. All right. So we go out, I take them to Costco. They have one left. And I'm like, all right, this is it. Like, this is going to be it for a long time. So I need you to take care of this. So we buy the TV. We get it home. I set it up. I get his cable going. He's happy as a pig in shit. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm like, all right, Dad, have a good night. I got to go. So I go home, go to bed, wake up the next morning. I get a phone call. And he says, I thought we replaced the broken TV. And I went, we did. He's like, then why is it still broken?
That's number 4.
I went, are you kidding me? I said, call me back on FaceTime. I need to see this. So he calls me back on FaceTime, puts the camera towards the TV. Sure enough, freaking hole right in the middle of it, completely shattered. And he's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, you tell me what the hell happened. He's like, well, I just woke up and it was like this. And I went, oh, man. So I'm like, I'm beside myself. I don't know what to do at this point. So I said, look, I'll order you a new TV. It's going to take a while to get here because that was the last one amongst all the stores. It only lasted 24 hours in your apartment. So now we got to get a new TV. Today, I finally found the new TV, and I ordered a protective screen that goes, it's basically like an OtterBox for your TV.
Okay, good.
And it
plan.
was, and I didn't know they existed, but it was marketed to Nintendo Wii owners, which I thought was fucking hysterical.
One of my friend's kids threw something through the TV doing that.
If you've ever owned a Wii, either bowling or tennis, if you didn't have that controller wrapped around your wrist, that thing was going flying. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I got him a TV, and I got him a 40-inch, like quarter-inch thick plexiglass that goes on top of the TV that, for the most part, should be bulletproof.
So I have an unrelated question. You were in Vegas last weekend.
I was.
By any chance, do they give odds on 5 TVs broken by one person? Just curious.
I mean, the odds are pretty damn good. I think
Well,
you
the
would
odds were at 4 were unbelievable.
If you bet 100, I'm sure you'd get $10 back. That's how good
you
the
make
odds
more
are.
than if you pick the Jets to win the Super Bowl.
Are.
That's how rare it is. Fuck you, Jets.
Yeah, so I spent all day. In fact, when we're done recording this, I have to run over to Target because they had the last one. And I can't even just buy any TV. I have to buy that brand because he already knows all the menus and how to set it up. So if I'm not around, he can like program it and get it running without me having to come over and teach him how to do it.
He also appears to know all the weak spots on that TV, so maybe another TV might not be the worst approach.
Yeah, and I looked into like getting insurance for it, and they cover pretty much everything except for cracked glass. They will not cover cracked glass.
It's like nowadays, like when you buy a toaster for like $30, they're like, "Would you like to buy the warranty for $7?" I'm like, "No."
Because it doesn't cover anything.
Yeah, and it's a fucking toaster.
Yeah.
If it breaks, I throw it out, I get a new one.
But we're now $1,200 into televisions. Jeez. And I to be honest with you, even with the cover, I don't know how long this thing's gonna last. And I'm gonna tell him, I'm just gonna be like, look, if you break this one, I can't replace it. It's becoming too difficult and it's too much of a pain. I mean, I literally ran around to like 5 different stores today to go find one. I finally found one on my phone and then had them hold it at like a Target that's like 20, 30 miles away that I gotta go drive to.
You know what you need to do? You need to go on Craigslist or eBay or one of those and buy one of those old school fucking massive tube TVs that can withstand a hit, because those used to last for everything when we were a kid.
I wish I knew what he was throwing at it. I think it's got to be his phone, because I bought him one of those OtterBox cases for his phone, because when he was living with me, he went through like 2 or 3 phones because he would get frustrated and he would just kind of chuck it towards the ground. And I have like hardwood floors throughout most of the house. So, I mean, it was like smash, shatter everywhere. So, but ever since I got him that, he has not been able to break his phone. So,
challenge accepted. So,
oh man, so I'm beside myself with this whole situation. I don't know what to do.
all right, so I'll tell you a story. So, you said that was a little embarrassing. So I'll tell you a story. I had no intention of telling this one tonight. It was on my own personal list to talk about at some point or another.
Mm-hmm.
So this will make you feel better that it's only a TV. About 15 years ago, my brother was still alive. I go to my parents' house, and it's just me. And out of nowhere, they're like, "We want to talk to you." And they're like, "Can we sit down and talk?" So the first thing, being a kid who got in a lot of trouble, first thing is I'm like,
All right, which one was it?
What did I do? What happened? Like, what did they hear about me that I don't remember doing or saying or whatever?
Right.
So we sit at the table, and then I start thinking, oh shit, you know what? They might tell me they're going to get divorced. Like, that's the way the conversation felt. So now the three of us are just sitting there, nobody's saying anything. And to be honest, I wish I fucking put my head through a TV. No, nobody's saying anything. And then my mom starts going to my dad, tell him.
Is this the talk?
No. Maybe.
When you're
but different.
25. So when a mommy and a daddy really love each other.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. It's how well you know me. It's funny that you mentioned that, but it wasn't that talk. So my mom's like, are you going to tell him? And my father is like, no, there's no reason to. She's like, if you don't tell him, I'll tell him. So my dad's like, fine. He's like, your mother wants you to know that we don't have sex anymore. And I'm like,
what the
fuck just happened? So like, I kind of froze. Like, I'm like, why do I need to know this?
What are they hoping to gain from that?
I don't know. Maybe fuck out of guilt. Maybe angry fuck later. I don't know. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. And then they started arguing about it, whatever. And now I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm just waiting for like a pause in the conversation where I'm like, I'm out of here. Start driving home, call my brother at the time, and then my wife. And I'm like, let me tell you what just fucking happened. Like, you cannot imagine what just fucking happened. So that's a story to make you feel a little bit better that it's only a couple broken TVs.
I don't understand what did they think that conversation was going to result in?
A scarred child is what it resulted in.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The only thing next time they're going to show me. That could have been the thing that was worse. Let's go over the birds and the bees again. Honey, take down your clothes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I did not plan on telling that story, but I did want to talk about Elvis.
Okay.
And it led me to thinking. So if you remember in episode 2, we talked a little bit about the way I shit and that I have to be naked and stuff like that. And I don't think
hold on a second. You can't. Our audience has grown, but I guarantee you not everybody has seen every episode. So I feel like you need to at least explain that.
All right. If you go back to episode 2 called When Family Members Break Bones, at one point I tell a story about how, similar to George Costanza, I have to poop naked. So I take off all my clothes. If I'm at work, I take off all my clothes, but I leave on my socks and I slide my feet back into my shoes if it's like a public toilet. So that's just what I do. So if you want to go back and listen to that. But I just thought about this with Elvis. I heard a story the other day that when Elvis died,
he was on the shitter.
He was on the shitter, but he was so backed up that they said his shit was like clay in his body. That's how backed up he was. So I have a question for you. Do you feel you have a relatively normal shit schedule?
Oh, yeah. Like fucking clockwork.
Really?
Yeah.
So is it like coffee in the morning triggers it, or at night?
Every single time. I have a cup of coffee. I've got the timing starts on the clock, and I've got 30 minutes to get it out, or it's coming out.
So is that any time of day you have a cup of coffee, or just that first one?
Usually the first one of the day. Yeah.
Because I actually usually shit every night. And it all goes back to my idea of having to get naked. So I kind of plan my night as I go.
By the way, I've noticed that I worked a job once where I hated the fucking bathroom because there was no privacy. Mm-hmm. And there were like 4 stalls right next to each other. And the stall doors were like really high. And you can see in between the slats of some of the doors.
Make eye contact.
Like, I would do anything to not shit in that bathroom. So what ended up happening was I kind of ultimately switched my schedule around so that I was either going before work or after work. And after a couple of weeks, my body was like, boom, boom, boom. Like it was on a new schedule. And I did that for years.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I roll. I roll on a schedule. Like I was starting to say, I plan ahead a little bit where if I time it right, I can time it from changing into my clothes I wore for the day into my pajamas.
So are you trying to tell me that you have to take a shit now? Is that what
No,
you're
not
trying to
right
say?
now.
We need to hurry this
But
episode up.
you do know one episode that we recorded, you're like, oh, we could go a little longer. I'm like, I got to take a shit, dude. It's like 11:30.
So are we post or pre your normal shit time right now?
We are pre, but not by much. So
Okay,
let's
so
get this moving.
just so everyone knows, it's 8 p.m. Phoenix time, which is 11 p.m. Eastern.
Yep. So don't call, don't text. I'm busy. Have you watched anything interesting on TV lately?
Ironically, I just watched Memento because we talked about it. It was either the last episode or the episode before. I was watching Inception today because we talked about Christopher Nolan movies, and now I'm like, all right, what else Christopher Nolan got on? Shows wise, the only show that we've been watching that I really love and can't wait for the new episodes every week is Mosquito Coast, and it's on Apple TV. It's based on a book by Justin Thoreau's brother, uncle, something like that, cousin.
What's it about?
Essentially, this guy is an inventor, and they've been living this, this somewhat kind of sectioned off life. It's his wife and his two kids, and they're all homeschooled, and you get this like impression, like, all right, like what's going on? Like, why don't they kind of act normal in society? And then all of a sudden, the FBI shows up at their doorstep, and they all make a break for it, and they all run, and they have to get out of the country. So we don't know why. But they head for I think they're in California. They head for Mexico, and the whole thing is just like them on the run. And you learn a little, and they get into some really squirrely situations, and it's actually really good.
Hopefully, it ends at some point with them in Zona Norte.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
That's also a throwback for the new people.
Yeah, for an earlier episode.
So I stumbled across, like we talked about once before, how I stumbled across, I think it's called We Are the Champions on Netflix, which is all this weird shit. And Netflix recommends all this random stuff for no reason. Sometimes, like I could see, they recommended this because I watched this show. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the recommendations that came up for me was My Octopus Teacher, it's called.
I've seen that one. I've seen the panel for that, the little screen. I've never watched it, though.
So
it's a documentary, right?
It's a documentary. Which,
I love me some documentaries.
Yes, yeah, I don't normally watch documentaries. But it's about a guy he's a documentary filmmaker anyway, but he's taking a break, and during his break he goes back to where he's from in South Africa, and he goes into the water and he goes swimming because he's a diver, and he happens to notice an octopus, and then he goes back the next day and it's still there, and the next day it's still there, and so he's like, wow, I wonder what would happen if I come back every single day for like a year and a half to see what happens. So it's a documentary on that process. So it's just interesting. And then look, I personally I have two cats. I like my cats a lot, but I don't put myself in the true like animal lovers category type thing.
Oh yeah,
right?
if shit hit the fan, you would eat those cats in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Like I'm still gonna have octopus for dinner the next time I go to like a restaurant that has it, right? But
by the way, I think we just lost PETA.
PETA sponsorships. So it was just a fascinating story about how basically how fucking smart this animal is, how it protects itself, how it defends itself, how it knows, how it blends in with stuff. So it's just fascinating. So if anybody's interested in it's a relatively quick watch. It's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, I would totally watch that.
Yeah. It feels a little slow because the narrator is very methodical. He's very monotoned, and it's very matter of fact when he's talking. But I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. So that's something I watched this week. That's not something in my normal category of things I would watch.
Very nice.
Yeah. So, I had to watch a couple minutes to Terminator 2 to make up for it. All right. Do you want to go? Since it's yours.
Let's do the one crazy question. Yeah. So I saw this on, I think it was Facebook, and I went, oh man, that was and some of the responses were pretty freaking epic. So I thought I would copy it. So the one crazy question for this week is, what is the pettiest reason why you wouldn't date someone? The pettiest reason.
I would think it could be as petty as she likes the Yankees, I like the Mets. Can it be something that simple?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I guess that's kind of petty. I mean, I don't think I would break up with someone or not date someone because they were a Yankee fan.
All right, how about this? She says mustache instead of mustache.
I don't know. So along those same lines, I have a few pet peeves that absolutely drive me flippin' nuts. And one of them is people that use the word irregardless because it's not a real word. It may be a real word now because it's been used so many times in the past
Like
that
ain't.
people. Yeah, it's just one of those things, but it means not regardless, which means regarding. I don't know what the do the taxonomy on that word, but it's basically the opposite of what you would think that it means. And
So-
I hate when people say that word. It actually drives like chills up my spine. I want to
So that
claw my
word-
brains out.
That word has come up in many an arguments on poker nights out in the East Coast, which
Really?
after you had gone. And the reason being is I agree with you. It's by the dictionary definition of it now, it says the incorrect use of regardless, right?
And it's one of those words where it's been used so many times that Webster was just like, hey, you know what? It's a word. We're going to put it in.
Like bootylicious. So the funny thing is, me and GQ were arguing about this at one point, and I'm like, look, I agree. It shouldn't be used as a word, but it's a word. And he's like, it's not a word. And I'm like, it is in the dictionary, which is the definition of what makes it a word. Because it's defined in the dictionary. So
But it
I'm
wasn't
with you on
always.
that.
Yeah.
So
The other one is the word frustrated. I hear people say it all the time. They go, I'm so frustrated.
frustrated?
Frustrated. They remove the R from the word and they say, I'm frustrated.
Wow.
And I mean, so irregardless, like if I'm on a date and someone says that, I'm like, check, please. You know what? If someone says, irregardless, I'm frustrated with this conversation, I'm like, check, please. Where are the shovels? Because I'm going to bury this bitch.
Oh God, I hope your wife uses it nonstop for the next few
No,
days.
she and I are in the same realm on that one.
Yeah. So like I don't think like over the years, like I've had enough things and reasons why not to like a person enough that these minor petty things have never really come up. So
Yeah, that was pretty good. All right,
irregardless, I like it.
fuck you.
All right. Fact and a fiction. And I've also thought about this.
Oh, so
And
we've
I'll be
changed the
honest-
name? I thought it was a fact and a
Oh,
falsehood.
sorry. A fact and a falsehood.
You changing shit up on me without getting approval first.
Yeah, no. Fact and a falsehood. So one thing I'm going to do at some point, I'm not doing it tonight. You have been warned. Eventually, I'm going to give you either two facts or two falsehoods at the same time. Really fuck with you a little bit. Actually,
I mean,
really.
as it is, the first two were pretty easy. The last two were, I mean, flip a coin, man. They were like almost impossible because they were almost the same thing. Like I even got confused on the last one. The last one, I'm like, I got
You were
confused,
very confused.
and then I ended up picking the wrong one.
You were frustrated.
I was very frustrated.
So, a question though. So, the idea that I have behind it is if I make them kind of similar, I think it does make it harder. And that's why I've been doing that. So, it doesn't go without thought. That is what I was doing. So,
Right,
all right.
but by the way, if you do what you're saying, then we're playing the game a fact and a fact, or a falsehood and a falsehood.
I'll
which
call
one
it
is
that
it, man?
afterwards. We'll edit it in afterwards.
All right, let's go.
All right, here we go. First one. I was once on TV and interviewed for the news. Second one. I worked security for Clive Barker,
Clive Barker. Yeah.
horror writer,
No, I know
Pinhead,
exactly who he is.
Hellraiser,
Yeah, no, Hellraiser.
Book of Blood.
So you would have met Clive Barker at a comic book show.
This is where your years of experience with me might play into it very well
so
for you.
For those that don't know, Mike worked for a comic store for a long part of his childhood. Or
Yeah, all
our
the years I
teenage
wasn't in
years.
school.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's the reason why he went to school is because he realized he didn't want to just schlep comics around for his entire life. So, and you used to constantly go on these, you would represent your store at these comic book conventions where you would pack up boxes and boxes of Star Trek memorabilia and really expensive comic books, and you would take them and you would sell them at these comic book conventions. So much so that one year you surprised me, my freshman year in college, with a show out in Phoenix. And I actually went and helped you out for one of those shows. And having not been to one of those shows prior to then, I didn't realize what kind of fucking freaks show up at those shows, man. Holy shit. So much so that when my kids were old enough to appreciate it, there was the Phoenix Comic-Con, and I took them one year, and some really overweight dude that was not circumcised was wearing a fucking Spider-Man costume with nothing underneath it. We saw everything, and that was the last time I took my kids to a Comic-Con. It was so fucking bad.
I want to change my answer. You saw his web shooter. That's better.
So anyways, back to the game. You probably would have seen Clive Barker at a comic book convention, because comic book conventions and horror film actors and writers are like they're hand in hand. Every Comic Con I've ever been to, there's always that mix of folks. So that one I can believe. The other one, you were interviewed on television. I actually believe that I saw this clip of you being interviewed on television. So I'm going to go with that's the fact. Because I can see it in my head. And maybe I just dreamt it up, but for some reason, I feel like I've seen that before.
So the truth is, I worked security for Clive Barker.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So what happened was at one of the conventions, like you mentioned, who was hired as his security detail did not show up. And they asked a couple of us big-ish type guys to help out and to be his security for that day. So I actually did work security for Clive Barker, which it was, I don't want to say it was dangerous because that sounds silly, but it was right when he came out as gay, and they were worried that there was going to be some repercussions for him at the show because he had just announced it the day before. So that one is real. Now, the one that relates to...
I love how I get all the facts right and then pick the wrong answer.
Trust me, I like it too. The one where I was once on TV and interviewed for the news, I was never interviewed, but I was on TV when the trains had a problem a few years ago. Somebody on the train called into the news and was scanning the train with his cell phone, and I was in the background.
Oh, really? So
much so that the guy next to me on the train, who I don't know, he turns to me all of a sudden and goes, I think this is you. And he shows me the news article that it's me, because he was obviously trying to find out what happened. So I'm like, holy shit, that is me. So I might have shown you the photo or the clip.
Yeah.
But I was never actually interviewed.
Oh. So I do remember seeing something where I'm like, God, I feel like I've seen you on TV before in a news segment.
I love this game.
Yeah. You're getting so nitpicky on the details where you're picking something that's like 99% true, but not 100% true.
That's right. I flip a little bit of a piece to flip it into the other one.
Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's describe a movie badly. You can go first.
All right. So a group of men spend 9 hours trying to return a piece of jewelry.
All right. So it has to do with some sort of reverse bank heist. So I'm going to guess return a piece of jewelry. Fuck, I can't think of one. I want to say Inside Man.
I don't even know what that movie is.
Oh, that's a great movie by Spike Lee. Watch that movie, dude. That's a great movie.
All right. The answer is Lord of the Rings.
Well, fair enough.
You overthought it.
I did. All right. Mine is a man with a sweet tooth keeps knocking off children.
A man with a sweet tooth keeps knocking off children. Oh, this is, I'm drawing a big old fat blank on this one. Man with a sweet tooth. Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. You could have answered with either Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or the remake was what, called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think they called
Yeah,
it.
but knocking off children, I feel like that's killing children. I was
Well,
thinking
that's
I was thinking murder mystery. I was
Yeah.
not thinking like, all right.
Well, to be fair, he is playing it up as if he's kind of killing them in the thing. Augustus Gloop ends up in the chocolate. You think he's going to drown. Violet, you think is going to blow up from eating a blueberry. Mike TV gets zapped across the thing into all these little pieces, and they can't put him back together. He's
They
knocking
do
off
put him
children.
back together. He's just a little tiny man.
Yeah, eventually. So, all right.
Remember,
Well,
they have to put him in the taffy stretching machine to
they
get him
put
back
him
to
in the
his
taffy
normal
stretching
size.
machine.
Well, that so when TV Mike or whatever goes through the little particle thing, and I'm talking about the Gene Wilder version. I didn't really see the newer one. When they get him into the TV, he's like, like 5 inches tall.
Yep.
And then they pick him up and they're like, and Willy Wonka's like, well, you take him to the taffy spreading machine, and his mom like passes out because she's like, oh my God.
All right. Great. All right. So with that, I'm Michael Carter,
And I'm David Michael.
and we are
Ridiculously
bored and frustrated.
Irregardless.